And the main functionality of doing a lift kit on any vehicle is so that you can get further out. So you want to be able to get further down the trail, so to speak. Hey guys, welcome back to HRG TV. My name is Ben, and today we have another 2022 Honda Ridgeline in for a lift kit. And I wanted to show you guys this one. It's a 2.5-inch lift kit. Now I know the videos we put up before, 1.5 and 4.5, but we have not done the 2.5 on a video yet, so that's why we're doing this for you today. This is a black edition, and what makes it a black edition is that, well, everything is black. But I do want to point out that this lift kit will fit any Ridgeline from 2017 all the way to 2025, including the Trail Sport, because as I showed you in the last video, the Trail Sport is not lifted from the factory. And if you're interested in this lift kit, we do have them in stock right now at HRGOffroad.com, so go check that out. And if you're wondering what size tires you can put on after the lift, we'll be talking about that at the end, so stay tuned for that. Now this kit in particular is going to be the one with the rear high option. If you go to HRGOffroad.com, there is an option for level or rear high, which means that it gives it a little more height in the back. Now on this one, he needs that rear height because he actually uses this as a truck. There's a bunch of stuff in the back, plus he pulls a trailer with it. And if you have the level option, it will sag when you put a lot of weight on it. That's why these things come rear high from the factory, so that if you put weight in the bed, it doesn't do the Carolina squat going down the road. So that's why we're doing the bigger option in the back. Anyways, let's get right to the lift kit. Whoa, whoa, whoa! That got out of control in a hurry. That's why you always wear steel toes, boys and girls. One thing I really love about Hondas, and I do say this a lot, is that they have this extra little spot for your hood prop. They call this a service position. It gives you a little more space to work. I love that. All right, the first thing you're gonna do is take out these two bolts right here from the engine dampener. Now, as you can see, the engine did not move. It's not actually an engine supporting mount, it's just a dampener. We're gonna take this bracket out and not gonna go back in. All right, now that that's done, I wanted to mention something to you guys right away, if you're doing this job, that you wanna save all these bolts, all the original bolts, just in case the customer wants to go back to factory and take the lift kit off. Now, installing this lift kit is not permanent other than just trimming a couple pieces of plastic. So if you ever wanted to take the lift kit off, you could do that, but not without the factory bolts, and these are expensive to buy from Honda. Now, step one in the instructions says to remove the negative battery terminal. Now, I'm not doing that because that step is really there to protect the battery from going dead. Sometimes you might forget to close the door and runs the battery down, so if you anticipate this taking a little longer, definitely do that step one, disconnect the battery. We're gonna have this job done in just a couple hours, so I don't anticipate the battery going dead. I think that's it for bolts. There's two more screws here, and they're a number 3 Phillips, so be aware of that. Make sure you don't use a number 2, because it'll strip it out. All right. One more clip, dang it. All right, there's that. All right, so we're actually installing some no-low skid plates on this car too, so I don't know if we're gonna reuse that plastic piece. Okay, now we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty. All right, we're gonna start by taking the bolts out of this stiffener bracket right here. Nothing like getting sprayed in the face with mud. I like getting sprayed in the face with mud. I think we might be getting a steel and a gas delivery at the same time. Yep, steel delivery and gas on at the same moment. The trucks are like trying to figure out where to go back there. We'd like to point out too that it is the middle of January and it is 29 degrees outside, and I'm in here trying to be, you know, in costume or whatever. Okay. Next is gonna be, we're gonna take these bolts out so that the engine falls on our head. I'm just kidding, that's not what's gonna happen. All right, so important thing to point out, never take all the bolts out of the subframe at the same time. I usually try to at least have 3 in there at any given time because I don't like having engines falling on me. So we're gonna play it safe here today. Basically, we're going to put one of the new bolts that comes with the kit in place of the one we just took out so that you maintain at least 3 bolts holding this thing up at all times. Same thing on the next one. Back one. Now this is going to drop a little bit, you'll see, but that's the intention of what we're doing here. We are dropping the subframe. So it's going to drop a little bit more, but I don't want you guys to feel uncomfortable. This is maybe a little bit intimidating to do, but remember you have 3 super strong bolts holding this thing up, and that's more than enough. There you go. So go ahead and lower this down. And now what we can do is just slide that up in there like that. Oops, hang on, forgot the little bracket. We're gonna get that one started and then we'll go ahead and put these in. Don't tighten this up until these are in. And we're gonna just place that there. Throw the bolt up in there. These are 6061 billet. And the bolts are a grade 10.9, which is exactly what the automakers use. So you could call these automotive grade bolts. Get these started. Okay, just repeat the process over here. Now this one's a little bit more tricky because there's some stuff in the way. So what you got to do is go around from back here and then place it there. I went and test drove this truck before we started on the lift kit. Man, you forget how nice these things are. It's like a big car. Same thing back here. Basically, pull the bolt out. How's that look? Oh yeah, now we should be good over here as well. Yep. Yeah, a lot of people in the comments think that lifting a Ridgeline is stupid, but by that logic, lifting anything is stupid. Because if you assume that a vehicle is perfect just the way it is, nobody would ever lift a Jeep. We're gonna go around and do a bolt check before we finalize this job, but for now, we're gonna get everything nice and impact tight. There's also people that are all about conformity. Going with the flow and not being against the grain, or just doing what everybody else does. And that's fine, but for someone like me, I like to try to be different. And sometimes cars are like a form of self-expression. And it's not always about functionality of a lift kit. Sometimes it's just about being different.
It's also about getting farther out.
Yeah, well, that's the main reason. The main functionality of doing a lift kit on any vehicle is so that you can get further out. At least that's my take on it, because that's how I use lift kits on any given vehicle. So you want to be able to get further down the trail, so to speak. So lifting is not for everyone. I mean, I think you have to have a reason to do it, but the downside is minimal. It's kind of hard to see what I just did, but you basically put the spacer between this bracket and that bracket and then drop the bolt in like that. All right, next we're going to do is install the foam seal. Basically, it's just a weather seal / noise blocking piece of foam. And that is going to nestle right around the steering rack, steering column, whatever you want to call it. and I gotta spin it around and I can't seem to get my hand in there. You just wanna make sure that it's located around the steering column and nice and tight like that. And there you go. That was about a 15-minute job, start to finish. Subframe's dropped. Oh, hang on, we gotta figure out this metal tray here. So this little metal piece right here, I've seen a lot of trucks come in with this not even there. But I think what happens is they get caught and they just tear off, because this is a really flimsy piece. I'm not sure exactly what it's for. I guess it looks like a heat shield, but really your catalytic converter right here has its own little heat shield. So I couldn't say exactly what this is. It might actually also be for aerodynamics. I will show you how to keep this in place, but I would say you could probably just take this off. Okay. Now let's just see. Let's see how close we are. It's not rocket science. Let's pretend this is lining up right there. And now if you look, that's lined up, and now you can see the hole right there. And it's literally that simple. Now you can bolt this back on. So, really, all you gotta do is drill these holes. Okay. Let's go ahead and put this back up. All right. Just put them back in. This clip was already missing, so I won't be able to put that back in. So it's just as secure as it was. I wish I did have that other clip, but I don't. Yeah, okay, moving on. Now, back is the same thing. We've got a couple of these stiffener brackets, and just take these out. Two more here. Now, we're gonna go ahead and start taking out the main subframe bolts right here. And then we're gonna throw in one of the new ones. There's a lot of weight on this last bolt right here, so it's gonna drop a little bit. But don't be intimidated, because it's held up by the other three bolts. There you go. Now we can go ahead and start putting the spacers in. This is a 3.5 by 1 inch. And then we're gonna need the brackets. Let's make sure you start these bolts by hand first, for obvious reasons. I mean, some people enjoy a good old cross-threaded bolt. I'm not one of those people. Okay, all right, and same thing, the rest of them are just gonna move around and put the spacers in as we go. All right. Drop it in. All right, should be enough. There it is. subframes are dropped. We're gonna move on to dropping the drive shaft and this unit right here, which we call the gas tank bar. But let's go ahead and move on to that. So basically lowering this, it's gonna come in contact with the drive shaft safety loop here. So we're gonna drop this as well so that it doesn't touch. And then back here, this is gonna be in the way, this is gonna be in the way. So we're gonna move all this stuff downward just an inch. So to get to these bolts, we're gonna go ahead and cut a little notch right here. I'm not doing a very neat job. Luckily, you'll never see this. Okay, and then up here, same thing. Oh, come on, man. Tedious. Try not to cut yourself. Okay. All right, and we're just gonna go ahead and take these out. Good to go. Same thing back here. We're gonna drop this. You see how it's touching right there? Oh man, it just poured water all over me. Fun. I forgot a step. You actually have to take these screws out too. I don't know if we've got to re-drill these. I don't think so. I'm just gonna take these out. Working on as many ridge lines as I have, I've noticed that a lot of these are bent. So it's a low on the car and it can run into stuff if you're, I don't know, if you're just driving it normal, sometimes these get hit. So you might have a little bit of difficulty right now getting it to bolt back up. All right, will they fit? That's the question of the day. Barely not. Let's try taking another bolt out. Sometimes you just gotta free up some play. Let's try that. So now, as you can see, we got plenty of room right here, just like it was before. Good and sturdy. I can move the whole truck with that, so good enough. All right, now, the next thing we're gonna do is deal with the exhaust. All right, so I'm an optional step right here. Basically, the kit does come with longer exhaust hangers. Now, on this one, it doesn't seem to be touching anywhere. I think maybe not all trucks are made on a Wednesday type of thing. There might be variances in, you know, production quality. Also, some of them don't have dual tips. Some of them have just one tailpipe. So you may or may not want to put those on. They're in the kit just in case. I'm going to show a clip real quick of another video where we do put them on, just in case you decide you do want to do them. But I'm not going to put them on this one. That's going to come out. Almost got it. Almost got it. Just one will do. There we go. There it goes. Okay. There you go. All right, moving on to what I would say is the least fun part of this installation. That is the front suspension itself. It's very cumbersome and a pain in the ass, and is a two-person job, as you will soon see. But we're gonna start off by taking all brake lines and ABS wiring off. Surprising how many vehicles I've worked on where these are just broken because people are so careless, they just rip them out. I don't understand that. It's so easy just to use a pair of pliers and pull them off properly. Call me kooky. There it goes. Last one that I worked on that was older, I had a hell of a time getting the axle to pop loose. Hopefully it won't happen on this one, but we'll see. No, quickly. Ooh, it's not moving at all. That's not a good sign. All right, now it's always a good idea to support the brake caliper so that it doesn't just hang by the hose. I don't really exactly know how much this even matters, because I've seen a CRV or two with the old ka-chow ball joint failure and the whole wheel get ripped off and somehow the brake line is still intact. So I would say brake lines are actually a lot stronger than people give them credit for, but it's just good practice to support the caliper. That is not coming out, but I'll show you how to get them off. If your brake caliper's not a fucking caliper, dude. I'm pretty sure I'm autistic. I can't talk. Or what I got, like Asperger's or whatever that shit is. If your brake rotor is stuck on like this one is, I'll show you quickly how to get it off. There's like a little threaded hole right there. You can just put this bolt in. And it just releases it like that. Yeah, I have a feeling that this one's gonna be a pain in the ding-a-ling when it comes to getting the axle out. On a brand new one, this will just move. You'll be able to push it with your thumbs and it'll just move. I'm not sure why they don't put grease in there from the factory, but they don't, and this will rust in place. Imagine if you're watching this video a long time from now, it's 2025 now, but if you're watching this in a long time in the future, you could be working on a Ridgeline with a couple 100,000 miles on it, and that bad boy is probably seized permanently. Ah, it moved. You see that? I think we might be all right. That is good news. Now, we're going to knock this loose, but I always put the nut on just to protect the threads in case you miss. A couple of hits, and she's good. Okay. All right, this next part is one that you definitely have to have a helper to do, because someone has to pry down on this lower arm while another person hits it with a hammer to release the ball joint. You can use a pickle fork on these, but only if you're planning on replacing the ball joint, because a pickle fork will obviously destroy the rubber boot and you have to replace the ball joint at that point. This is what I call the Ridgeline bar. Basically, this gives you a little bit more leverage than just a normal pry bar. And I just made this from 1.5 inch steel. It's not about really having the power that it gives you as far as like the extra leverage, but it's like a lot easier to pull down on this than it is a shorter bar. And so you don't have to be, let's say, as strong to do this job if you have a longer bar. So I'm gonna get Zane to come and help me pull this down, and I'm gonna smack the shit out of it with a hammer about 100 times. He's just hanging out.
One hit.
Dude, it's gonna take how many hits?
One hit.
Okay, comment down below how many hits you think it's gonna take.
One hit.
One, no, it ain't
Better
gonna be
hit it
one.
hard too.
Maybe 2 hands. Oh, that's it.
probably...
We'll count in the video. Sometimes it takes a lot. Oh, I need that still. There we go. Okay.
Surprised me one teeny little bit.
Oh man. All right, we're gonna mount the spacer on top of the strut, as you can see here. And I know I have to say this in every video. Left side is driver side on US models. And we do sell these things all over the world, and driver side isn't always on the same side. So I use left and right instead of driver passenger, because left in some markets might be passenger side. I'm gonna reuse the factory nuts to hold them on to the strut. And I know most of you know this, but the tops of these are meant to turn. There's a bearing inside, so when you steer the wheels back and forth, these will turn. So it makes it hard to get leverage. So what I do is I wedge a wrench in there like so, and then you can just get as much torque as you want, tightening them up. Now when you go to put them back in, make sure you clock them back the same way they were. Oh. Let me get one of them started. Okay. Zelda, come here. Come here.
She said she didn't want your dirty hands.
No, she's like, don't touch me with those filthy hands. Zelda's such a sweetheart. We love her. Yeah, pull it in a little bit. It might be just enough. There it is.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so what you guys just saw there was basically it didn't want to line up. And what was happening is that the axle wasn't pushed in all the way. So the strut itself couldn't move far enough that way for everything to just pop together. So when I tightened this up, pulled everything in, and then it was able to pop in place, no problem. Tips and tricks. All right, we have one more thing we gotta do that I forgot to do. Take the sway bar link off. And if you're curious as to why you take the sway bar link and replace it with a shorter one, I made a whole video about that. But basically, when you're lifted, this part moves down with the strut and this part does not. So the sway bar ends up being a lot closer to that than normal. And if you leave the stock sway bar link on, it will actually come in contact. So the solution is to put shorter ones on so that the sway bar and everything is back where it was from the factory. All right, this is a new sway bar end link. We actually had these specially made for us. So this is basically a shorter link. Now I want you to notice something. When you put this on, you see here it does not line up. And that is because the other side is not done. We have to do the other side first before this will all line up. I'm just gonna go ahead and put the bottom one on just so it'll stay in place. But that's why these don't line up. You have to get the other side finished. When both sides are lifted, they'll meet up. So in case you got stuck right there. Now we start putting everything back together. Okay. Now when you put this on, pay attention to where this little hole is. Make sure you line it up with the threaded hole on the wheel hub there. Slip that on. Yep. Perfect. Let's just clip this back into place. Lucky for us, this has loads of slack, so not an issue there. The brake line, we are going to relocate. So you can take your original bolt. I'm not sure exactly which one was the original bolt, to be honest, but I'm gonna put that in there like so. And then basically we're going to bolt it back together with this in place. When you finish up with this job, you want to make sure that none of these brake dust shields are touching the rotor. Now I can already tell you this one's touching. So what you want to do, find out where it's rubbing and then just bend it back out of the way. Like that. Because what will happen is that'll scrape and then you got an angry customer on your hands. Moving on to the back. All right, so for the back suspension, you got 3 bolts here and 3 bolts in the strut, and that's it. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. And we're gonna just loosen this one. I'm not gonna take it out. 24 millimeter on the strut. Three 14 millimeter bolts on this one. I like to use a wobble socket. I found an interesting phenomenon that puzzles me a little bit. There are a lot of people that like to use a manual ratchet on everything, even on disassembly. I just don't understand the advantage on maybe, let's say, disassembly of using a ratchet and a socket when you have this. I mean, maybe you guys can clarify that if it's just a personal preference as to why some people prefer that. Oh, whoa, you see that catch? So in my opinion, if you're commission-based, you'd want to get the job done as quickly as possible. Now we quote 6 hours labor on this job, and I think we've been on it for maybe 2 hours, something like that. I mean, I'm only gonna film one side, but I'm telling you, you can get this done pretty quick if you know what you're doing. All right, so on these spacers, they look symmetrical, but they're not. They're oblong. You see it's a little thicker here than it is here because the bolt pattern is not symmetrical. So if you find yourself putting this spacer in and none of the bolts line up, it's because it's upside down. Okay. So basically just sandwich this in between the strut and the body here. And lifting the car up this high might have been a bit of an oversight. It's pretty high.
Lower it down.
I'm gonna try to get it in there anyway. It's just, I'm a short person, so it's hard to get up there. And also my left arm does not go up at all. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it. This arm, I can't go up with any kind of weight. All right, we're gonna drop it down a little bit. I think it started, yep, it did. Okay, so I want you guys to be careful on this step. It cannot be overstated how easy it is to cross thread a bolt in those holes. So just be careful, make sure you hand thread it in first. Now I left these bolts loose up top, make it a little bit easier to get this hole lined up. Now we're gonna tighten this with it on the ground so that all the bushings are in place at its ride height. Another way you could do that is just put a screw jack under this and put weight on it and then tighten them. But you can go ahead and tighten these up now. All right, so what we're gonna do here is lift this with a floor jack. What the floor jack allows you to do is move this arm that way. So if you're on a lift and you're trying to use like a screw jack, you can't really go back and forth with it as easy as you can with the floor jack. So this just gives us a little more flexibility, and we're gonna lift up on this until the holes line up. And also we could tighten everything once this is in there. There you go. You see it line up? Just using a pry bar, you're able to get the bolt through. Same thing with the other one. Since we got weight on it. One more thing we got to do here we're going to go ahead and install a rear brake line spacer. I'm gonna put this on, mount it up with the OEM bolt. It's gonna bolt to the bracket. You make sure you tighten, when you tighten this, that it's not touching this, but that gives it just a little bit more slack. All right, for the last part of this job, we're gonna be working underneath the dash. We have to create a little bit of clearance around the steering coupler that goes through the firewall. And to get to that, you have to remove this dust cover. And to get to the dust cover, you have to remove the side of the console. And it's just a couple of plastic clips. And unfortunately, when I pulled this off, I noticed there were already a couple of clips broken and one that was still stuck in the side of the support for the dash there. So I went ahead and fixed that. I got those pulled out and stuck back into that cover so that when I put it back together, it's actually done correctly. So once you get all that out of the way, you just pull up the carpet and that accesses the little clips that hold that dust cover on. So once you can just pull those loose and then the dust cover just slides off of the steering column. It's a little bit cumbersome to get it off, but once it's out of the way, you can see where the steering column goes through. So basically all you have to do is get a screwdriver and pry against the coupler itself to bend that metal back just out of the way enough where the coupler can turn and not make contact with the metal. There's really no need to cut anything. Just bend it out of the way with a screwdriver is the easiest way. And once that's done, you can just put it all back together and then cut a small notch in the plastic piece to allow the steering column to pass through that and not touch that as well. But that's pretty much it. Just put it back together. Sorry, my voice is a little messed up. I'm a little bit sick today, so bear with me. All right, guys, this is our 2022 Ridgeline. This is the black edition. I actually went on Marketplace and got some HPD wheels, and we've got some Falcon Falcon Rubitrek. So we got Falcon Rubitrek AT tires, and these are a 265/60/18. This is the biggest tire you can put on this thing without doing a bunch of cutting or rubbing or anything like that. So basically right here is your limitation. The tire will come back and actually rub right there if you go too big. And it's not like you can take this plastic off because there's high strength steel directly behind this plastic and you can't cut it or bend it or do anything with it. So in all reality, this is as big as you can go. Without having to do like massive modifications. But I think this is a pretty good combo for this truck anyway. But you could also do a 255/65/18. It's more or less the same size tire. But I think these look the best. So 265/60/18 for your Ridgeline. All Ridgeline 17 to 2025, regardless of trim. But it's worth pointing out that this lift kit will fit any Ridgeline from 1917, dude, come on. This is gonna take forever. Get it together, Huffman. All right. Self-tangling hoses too? Man, what'll they think of next? Hey, look, I might be messy, but at least I'm disorganized.